Про оперативну ситуацію на сході України в зоні АТО, про те, як виконує
Colonel Lysenko about with an update.
Security and Defense Council Information Center spokesman with the latest update from ATO zone from eastern Ukraine. Прошу.
Доброго дня, шановні.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, appointed the advisor to the head of the state, Igor Smeshko, head of the Committee on Intelligence Issues attached to the President of Ukraine, and the chief duty of the committee today is to provide the armed forces with reliable and checked information of the intelligence. The President expects from the committee the objective presentation of the position of the state in information war and powerful steps to help consolidation of the Ukrainian nation, information provision of the decisions adopted, and in the anti-terrorist operation zone, the terrorists continue to violate the regime of ceasefire. The biggest number of attacks and shellings is observed in the vicinity of Donetsk airport, next to Debaltsevo and the city of Shasta. The main aim of terrorists is still the airport, which was 5 times over the last 24 hours shelled from mortars and fired at from small arms. Twice, the Grad batteries shelled the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the vicinity of Tonenka. As a result of shelling and firing, 1 Ukrainian military died and 4 got wounded. There were no clashes on the border outside of the anti-terrorist operation zone. Yesterday at 7:10 p.m. there was another fact of air reconnaissance by a Russian drone in the vicinity of Mariupol. The militia servicemen in Donetsk region have developed a complex of actions in order to neutralize the potential threat in the vicinity of Mariupol, which includes interaction with the military who are manning the first and second line of defense. And at the moment they are working on the reinforcement of the third line of defense. We are observing the rotation of terrorist units in the region. The Russian military are being withdrawn from the front line to the border with the Russian Federation, and they are being replaced by terrorists of the so-called DNR and LNR who were trained in field camps in Russia in the vicinity of Rostov-on-Don. Yesterday at 3 p.m. through the crossing point to Spenka, the territory of Ukraine was led by several convoys of machinery, 10 vehicles in each. We also have detected the movement of military machinery with Ukrainian signs from the occupied Crimea. This is a open robbery of the Ukrainian property. According to the official data of the Security Service of Ukraine, the expansion of the zone of the anti-terrorist operation is not planned, and the mass media information on this contain unchecked information. The terrorists continue to fire upon residential blocks in Donetsk. Yesterday from 5 p.m. until midnight there were shelling of Kuybishevsky and Kievsky districts in Donetsk. As a result, 5 peaceful residents died and 24 got wounded. After the projectiles hit the building, it was destroyed, number 53, the Zoologichna Street. Besides, private houses number 5 Chervonopartizanska Street and number 116 Pyatnitsko Street were destroyed, as well as blocks of flats 216 and 221 Kuybyshev Street. Also, the gas pipelines were damaged in these districts. In spite of the risk for life, the repair brigades are doing everything possible to restore gas supply to customers of the northern part of Donetsk. In Mariupol, the work of the Donetsk regional agency of Oshad Bank has been restored, and people can get their salary from ATMs. Out of 112 lorries of humanitarian help from Germany, 40 are already unloaded, and unloading continues. This humanitarian convoy brought modules from which the towns for temporary refugees dwelling will be constructed. Also, humanitarian help from Warsaw goes to Ukraine. Polish volunteers and private firms have collected for Ukrainian military and displaced persons from the ATO zone hygienic and medical goods and some everyday chemistry and warm clothes. We have said more than once that terrorists are taken from Ukraine to Russia to sell everything that they can rob: coal, scrap metal, cars, and the like. And these facts are already detected and observed by the mission of the OSCE. For instance, the mission that is based on Russian border points, Hukovo and Donetsk in Rostov region, have spotted the fact of transportation in lorries of coal from Luhansk region to the territory of Russian Federation. And this has been taking place until since the railway was damaged. The mission also says that there's a increase in the number of uniformed people who were crossing the border in both directions, from Ukraine to Russia and vice versa. The U.S. want to reinforce the ability of Ukraine to reinforce the security of its borders and preserve its territorial integrity and sovereignty in the conditions of the Russian occupation of Crimea and intent the actions of separatists supported by Russia. The President Obama has confirmed the decision about the provision of additional help in defense sphere and security for more than $46 million from August, in addition to already declared $70 million of security help. The aide to the Minister of Defense of U.S., Assistant Minister of Defense of U.S., Derek Chollet, also said that the U.S. is working on the program on provision of legal help to Ukraine. The General Secretary of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, confirmed preparedness to further actively cooperate with a view to adequately and fastly implement the decisions of the summit of NATO in Wales about the reinforcement of the defense capability on Ukraine against the background of the aggression of Russian Federation. This will be the subject of the activity of trust funds of NATO. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine sent a note of protest to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia in connection with the opening of Russia of 5 ports on the temporarily occupied territory of Crimea for foreign vessels. The document emphasizes that actions of the Russian side are another brutal violation of the sovereignty of Ukraine and also the violation of international legal obligations according to the UN Convention on Naval legislation and other international conventions. The Ministry for Foreign Affairs demands that Russian Federation immediately stops illegal actions and cancels this resolution of the government of Russia. We remind you that Ukraine in mid-May informed the international seagoing organization about the preparation of the decision about the closure of Crimean ports and seaports of Ukraine in Yevpatoria, Feodosia, Yalta, Kerch, and Sevastopol have been officially closed from the 15th of July this year. This decision means that any seagoing vessel that enters the seaports of the peninsula does this at their own risk because its owners and captains can meet serious problems, fines, or even prison. The State Secretary of the U.S., John Kerry, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of U.K., Philip Hammond, said that the actions of Russia over the recent months pose a challenge to the most basic principles of international system and called upon Russia to fulfill the obligations it undertook about the peace in Donbass. According to John Kerry, Washington and London agree that Russia should immediately withdraw its forces from Ukraine and to stop to provide material help to terrorists. Also, the Minister of Finance of USA, Jacob Lew, said that there's an opportunity a possibility of reinforcing sanctions against Russian Federation. The Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland, Rafał Trzaskowski, said that Poland will not agree to possible easing of sanctions of EU against Russia. The speaker of the Special Monitoring Mission of OSCE, Michael Botsurkiv, said that the observers mission OSCE in Ukraine has been prolonged for 6 months. Our mandate lasted for 6 months, and at the moment the mandate is continuing for another 6 months. Any questions, please?
Which lethal weapons the U.S. will be providing, how they can help? And Zakharchenko gave an interview yesterday, and he said that during the ceasefire, they took 38 municipalities away from Ukrainian lethal weapons. That's the weapon that kills. As to the numbers and technical characteristics of these weapons, we're not talking about that, at least publicly. Now there are negotiations going on. As to the settlements, municipalities which are as if occupied by terrorists, those territories and the settlements which were not at the strategic directions of offense or defense, they were considered to be neutral, but because they are on the territory which is under control of the terrorists, they believe that they are occupied by them. Any other questions? Two questions from the Wall Street Journal. Yesterday there were photographs very difficult from Donetsk airport. How much of the airport is left? What's the degree of destruction there? And the assistant to the president of Russia today says that the situation could be considered a ceasefire. It cannot be compared to the period of time when there are active battlefare going on. In Donetsk airport is within the limits in which it was. The buildings suffered a lot from everyday shellings, but to say that because of that the airport will be left by our forces, there are no grounds to that. Our Ukrainian forces are repelling all the attacks there. And the second question, he said that the situation cannot be compared to the phase of active military actions. from the 5th of September, from the day of announcing the ceasefire regime, because the offense stopped and Ukrainian forces are on the positions which were mentioned during or fixed during the Minsk agreement. It's obvious that the activity of military actions has been reduced, and we cannot compare this period of time to the period of time 1.5 months ago. Now the situation is less intensive, but the shelling continues. But we see some progress because even the opposite side starts telling that the activity of military actions has been reduced, and there is an opportunity to think about elections, to have elections. And this situation, when the shelling is not that intensive, we have the opportunity to exchange the detained persons. We free our military and peaceful citizens who are taken hostages by terrorists. And this period of time and the points of shelling which we fix every day tell us that this is less intensive, but to the complete ceasefire will lack the will of terrorists and the groups which almost every day attack our units in Donetsk airport, in the vicinity of Debaltseva and Shestya. Does Russia continue to supply weapons to terrorists? We have information that Russia continues to supply terrorists who were trained by them, but they replace their units of the Russian armed forces, and this way we believe that Russia this way withdraws its regular troops. What will happen in the future, we'll see. Any other questions? No? Then, if not, the next briefing will be at 12:30 tomorrow, and our